When creating artwork for a magazine ad, there are three important specifications: safety, trim, and bleed. We'll start with trim because it determines the other two. There isn't a universal trim size for magazines. Many are similar, but others are unique sizes. When designing an ad, you have to know the trim size for the magazine you're making artwork for. This one is 8 3/8 inches wide and 10 1/2 tall. And this one is 8 1/2 by 10 3/4. For my example, I'll use a magazine I'm familiar with because I do the pre-press, Portrait Magazine. This one is 9 inches wide and 10 7/8 inches tall. I'll use this trim size during the video. When creating an ad, set the document page size to the publication's physical trim size. Using InDesign, for example, in Document Setup, for page size, enter 9 for width and 10 7/8 for height. Do not make a larger page with art floating somewhere on it and your own trim marks. Doing this is a giant pain for prepress. Some may argue the added margin is needed for specifications, agency logo, approvals, that kind of thing. There's a right way to get all of that without using the wrong page size. More about that later in the video. It's vital the page size is correct, the actual trim size, because when making a PDF, the trim box is the page size, not anything to do with marks somewhere on the page. PDFs made from oversized pages fail pre-flight because the workflow sees the wrong trim size. So always set page size to match the physical trim size of the publication. And this isn't just about InDesign. It applies to any application used to create artwork. Illustrator, for example. Make the artboard size the physical trim size. Now that we know the trim size and have the page size set to match, next is safety margin. For this magazine, safety margin is 1/4 inch, meaning 1/4 inch inside the trim. That's fairly common for most publications, but some could vary. Always know specifications for the magazine you're making artwork for. I'll explain more about safety in a moment, but for now, I suggest using margins to show it. Then you have guides to show when elements violate safety. For margins, enter 1/4 inch and enable the chain to lock all edges to the same value. Last is bleed. Bleed is extra content, so variance in production doesn't show. Technology has advanced greatly, but we can't chop a stack of paper that precisely, not yet. Without bleed, some pages might look okay when the cut goes into the page, but other pages show the paper, when cut any amount, however slight, outside the page trim. So there needs to be some extra. We call it bleed. In Document Setup of InDesign, if the section Bleed and Slug isn't open, click the triangle to open it. Typical bleed is 1/8 inch, but some publications ask for more. Use whatever value the publication specifies. Enter the bleed value and enable the chain to lock all edges to the same value. Click OK to accept the document setup. The white is the page, the trim size. The pink line inside the page is the safety margin. The red line outside the page is the bleed. Now I'll turn on a layer with some mock artwork I've already added. The rule is, anything beyond safety must reach the bleed. And that means reach it completely. Close or almost doesn't count. Past safety, but only to the trim, won't work. It has to go all the way. Everything else that doesn't bleed must stay inside the safety margin. For example, I'll pull in the box with the headline, but not completely to the safety. That's a safety violation. If it doesn't bleed, it can go up to the safety margin or less. Otherwise, the element must extend all the way to the bleed. These elements near the bottom don't violate, but I'd recommend pulling them in a bit anyway. Looking at the finished magazine, you can see why. Here are elements that don't violate safety. The result is acceptable on the face edge. But look at the spine edge. See how the page rolls into the spine and hides part of it. And even face trim can vary. So always keep non-bleeding elements away from the trim at least a 1/4 inch. And really, just a bit more is even better. Now back to the slug information, like agency logo, specifications, and space for approvals. You don't need a larger page size to have space for these. It's called a slug, and InDesign lets you define one. In Document Setup, below Bleed, I'll enter 1.5 inch for bottom slug. It's not necessary all around, but if that's what you prefer, enable the chain to lock all edges to the same value. I'm going to change the pasteboard color temporarily because it shows the slug margin better. See the blue line extending below the page. It doesn't show as well on the normal gray pasteboard, but it's there. Within this area can be whatever you like. Designer logo, job number or name, inks used, all that sort of stuff. To demonstrate, my slug is just boring text a single paragraph. Good enough to see how it works. Now that a slug area is defined, the trick is to include it when making the PDF. During export, in the section Marks and Bleeds, enable the checkbox Include Slug Area. I have another video that covers this in more detail, along with every setting to use when exporting a PDF for print. I strongly urge you to watch that video so the PDF you export passes pre-flight when it gets to prepress. I'll put the video on the end screen. There's also a link in the description. Like this video if you found it helpful, and subscribe so you're notified of future videos. Also, leave a comment. I always like to hear from you. All feedback is welcome. There are plenty of other tutorials. Click the video or playlist on screen for more. Thank you for watching.